You know what? The second I saw your name pop up as an interview opportunity, I had to jump at the chance. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I have been a keen admirer of all of your work ever since like Control, and yeah,
I've been
really
getting my
chuffed to be chatting.
I've been getting my butt kicked, so I do appreciate getting that kind of energy. Thank you.
Oh no, well you're welcome. I sincerely mean it. I came up through the video stores. I used to own one, and so your movies were the type of movies that I would always recommend. I think you've got a very specific style or look to your films. How would you describe your style?
It's interesting because I started Control writing a script and directing it, and that was something that I wanted to keep doing. My journey has kind of led me down a different path of late, where I'm more of a gun for hire, and I've been asked to direct existing screenplays, and it's a schizophrenic thing because on one hand, I do want to get back to writing my own scripts and directing those films. That's something that I feel I would be better at.
Hmm.
I do love the challenge of taking on other stories at the same time, and I've managed to raise a family making films, which is a miracle in itself.
Hmm.
But a lot of times I'm not in the position of some of the cool kids where a reporter would ask, like, why did you decide to go down this path? And sometimes it's simply those were the opportunities that were presenting themselves at the time, and it's not as um planned out as some people think. Sometimes you take what's given and you try to make the best of it. And
Hmm.
I'd like to remind people of that, because this concept of the auteur deciding his how his career will be, or her career will be formed, it's just not a reality in this day and age. Very few people are afforded the luxury of doing what I dream to do, which is to shoot my own scripts. And that doesn't happen for everybody. So I'm going to get there. It's just taking a bit of I'm taking a bit.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like I can look at a movie and guess that it's yours. Like I love that about your work. Like there is definitely a style. And if I before we jump into Retribution, if I can just say, your movie Armored is a movie that I hold very special and near to me because my wife used to work as an armored truck driver. So we watched
Wow.
that together and she looks at me and she goes, that happens and that happens. And so I really love that movie. So I
Thank
wanted to get that out there. Action movies are your jam though. What makes a good action movie to you?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because though I do enjoy watching action, and I enjoy conceiving it. Like, I enjoy sitting down and trying to come up with cool stuff, but I hate shooting it. I'm always concerned someone's going to get hurt, and action takes a lot of things to make it right. And one of it is you kind of have to go for it. You can't
Mm,
really. I mean, we're faking it ultimately, but even faking it, you got to have to go for it. And
yeah.
but I love stunt guys, and I'm always worried that they're going to get hurt or something. So for me, action's a strange thing. But when it's done and you're watching it, I love it. It's great when afterward. It's great before you have to do it, and it's great after you've done it. But while you're doing it, it's not fun.
You probably age a few years every time.
Yes, sir.
I feel like it's only been a matter of time before you and Liam Neeson ended up working together, and I reckon that Retribution is just relentless. I think it's his most action-packed movie for the past decade, which says a lot when you think about his work. Was there any hesitation when asked to direct a Studio Canal movie with Liam Neeson?
Clearly there's a lot of questions that come to mind. He's made a few films. How are we going to do something that's different? And there's no real academic approach to it. It's an instinctual one. You're trying your best, given the confines of what you have, the space that you're functioning in, and given the tools that are at your disposal. So there's always a bit of a concern, but that concern actually could be for any movie, to be quite frank. Cinema has existed for 100 years. How we capture dialogue is there's room to play around with it and there's room to move, but you are trying to fall within a school that has existed for 100 years. And sometimes when you just do things for the sake of doing things and they're not grounded in the story or they're not related to the character, that stuff is what we call flash and unspectacular flash, for that matter, right?
Right, yeah. I feel this too is like for Liam Neeson, it's a very different kind of role. Although this is a movie that people might expect him to be in, I don't think we've ever seen him in a vulnerable position like this, or at least not for a long time. And he has no skills. And I think that adds a great amount of unpredictability to this movie. Was his character always written that way, given his reputation?
Yeah, I was surprised that there was always a vulnerability in the character. And in modern day action films, you tend to see this paper thin kind of presentation of machismo. And the what makes a hero cool in my eyes is the struggle. It's not the ass kicking per se, but it's the challenges. And seeing Liam not only embrace the vulnerability, but really he knows how to play it in the most sincere way. I really was impressed by that, and I found that those elements were some of the most engaging in the film. Was the heartbreak and was the humanity of it.
Definitely, the drama is what elevates this movie for sure. I also love the ambiguity of his morality. That makes it unpredictable. Like I certainly, at one point, I thought I knew where the movie was going. It definitely didn't go where I thought it would. So,
Yeah.
like, even just to you, congratulations on being able to deliver what I would say is, a formula movie, and yet it is completely unpredictable.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I mean, it's a shame how we've lost a bit of that of late. It seems that but isn't that the Instagram world? I mean, isn't that the presentation of perfection and the presentation of happiness and the presentation of cool? And in most cases, it's lacking completely reality.
Yeah,
And
I feel like everything's
I'm much more interested in a flawed person than I am in a pretty perfect person.
everything feels sterilized at the moment. So I'm very much appreciating what you're doing here. And I think you were really lucky also just to get Jack Champion into this film, because I really feel like he is a star on the rise. He's going to be huge in a few years, and he's really good in this.
100%. And the kids, in a movie like this, it's tricky. It could really, they are the linchpin essentially, because if they're not working and if those roles aren't working, then given that they're in the car for so much of the film, that could have really been a challenge later on. But both with Jack, I mean, first of all, Jack, fantastic actor, super sweet human being. And same goes for Lily Aspel. Again, just really great, strong performances, and just really a wonderful, and this is usually in these kinds of scenarios, it's kind of status quo, just for a director to say what a wonderful cast he or her had. But I really have to sincerely tell you that Matthew Modine, Noma Dumezwini, the kids, Jack Champion, Lily Aspel, all of them were as gracious and as beautiful as Liam. So I really enjoyed working with them.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, particularly when the kids are, sharing the screen the entire time with him.
Yeah.
And
lifting.
Lily, particularly, actually, now you say that, like her tiny little mannerisms really sold the family dynamic. I reckon she sort of spoke for the family unit more than either of the others.
Very well put. Yeah.
And so speaking of the drama, like a lot of the action takes place in the car. Or I should say, the drama takes place in the car while the action happens around it. Where do you factor in when it comes to directing action and drama inside a car? Like, was the car stationary most of the time with the doors off? Was it in motion? How did that work?
So it was a mix. So there were, for some of the more still, I mean, the car's always in motion, but you understand what I mean by, for some of the more still moments, we were capturing it it was a mixture. There was a few days of green screen even. There was a day or two of the more than a day or two. There was a few weeks of the volume, which is projected digital backgrounds essentially. and then we had process trailer, and then we had actual stunt driver on the roof or in the back of the car, and the actors with the car driving solo. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I storyboard everything, whether I'm talking about action, but I also storyboard dialogues, especially in a film with limited space as far as positions for camera. I'm trying to avoid redundancy in compositions. I'm trying to do a few things all at the same time, but it helps quite a bit. I mean, clearly with the action, the storyboards are a wonderful help. But even for the confined space, it proved to be a benefit.
Yeah. Well, all of those factors combined, the augmentation was seamless. Like, you wouldn't know from a viewer's perspective. Is shooting in a confined space tougher or easier for you? Do you prefer it?
I'm beginning to embrace limitations more and more.
Yeah.
I'm finding limitations to be actually a gift. It's like, oh, can't go that way, can't go that direction, because of whatever pragmatic reason is not allowing it to happen. So I actually embrace limitations, and I think that finding solutions within the parameters is always, it's challenging but rewarding as well.
Yeah, right. Does Liam Neeson rehearse?
No, so funny enough, Liam is one of those guys who really, I'm not a director who enjoys doing 10 takes on a glass of water being set down at the table. I generally am someone who thinks that if I don't have it within 3, maybe there's something I have to readjust. Of course, if you're doing a more dynamic shot, or you're threading a needle with the camera and you're trying to do something very complex, sometimes focal length or anything could require you to do it a few times. And of course, we'll do it until we get it right. But generally, I think that you should have it within a limited amount of takes. The problem with Liam, if I can say it that way, the problem with Liam is he gets it on the first take. And then there I am, and it's perfect. The performance is rock solid. But I know that I'm going to have an editor screaming at me if I say, hey, we did it in 1. I'm always trying to give them at least 2 takes, just so that they have some sort of opportunity to go, in a different direction if need be. But with Liam, really, he gets it in the first take, and then you have to consider what you're going to say next. And by the way, he's been in the business long enough that he can smell bull if it's bull. You can't come to him and go, that was great, one more. You have to give him something. And if you are giving him something, it better have meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like whenever I watch him, he's kind of acting on the fly, which kind of is what you're going with there. How does that affect the other actors? Like, that must be a difficult thing for other actors to be bouncing off someone that's sort of, so in the moment.
It certainly focuses everybody. I mean, you certainly realize who you're dealing with. And it definitely puts focus to the day.
Excellent. So one thing I want to ask as well, another thing I really enjoy about your films is you often work in a very reliable sort of genre formula, but you always make them feel new and uncertain and interesting. I'm wondering what sort of films you look at for inspiration, particularly making Retribution. Are there any that you tap into, just sort of, oh, I like what they did, or I like what they did, and sort of bring it together?
I mean, yes, and I'll often actually see films. I rarely feel like jealousy doesn't really play a part. It's if there is something similar to that, I would say it's more inspiration, where I'll see something that I'm just blown away by, and I say, man, I'd like to do something like that. So I find that it's generally inspiring for me when I see something that blows my mind, and it's interesting because as time goes on, it's more and more difficult, because especially now with the streaming services, there's an abundance of audiovisual content. And I always find it interesting for younger filmmakers, because on one hand, they have it much easier than some of the older generations. And on the other hand, they have it much harder, because in one respect, you can shoot your film and cut it now on your phone. I mean, you pretty much have all the technology needed to capture a story. But at the same time, there is now there's an ocean of content, most of which is absolutely trash. So trying to having the opportunity to stand out among the ocean of trash is difficult for a lot of younger filmmakers, even if they do have the technology to capture the stories.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm going to have to wrap things up in a moment, but I want to ask you two final questions.
Yeah.
One being, Liam Neeson's career has spanned decades, from The Bounty, Star Wars, Batman, all the way to A-Team. Do you have a favorite Liam Neeson movie?
I mean, he wasn't leading the charge in that film, but I love Gangs of New York.
Oh, yeah.
I love Gangs of New York.
Good answer.
I'm sorry?
Good answer.
Yeah, but no, I mean, he's one of those guys, and I think the reason he's had so much success beyond the clear talent is he's just personable. He's someone that we can all relate to, and in so many of his films over and over again, regardless of the situations, he's always able to ground them and bring humanity to the role. And that's what I love about the guy.
Totally. Completely agree. And lastly, what sort of movies do you enjoy in your downtime?
It's always changing and shifting. I'm watching Better Call Saul right now, the last season, which I love. I loved Breaking Bad and all of that. I mean, it's not the newest of films, but I thought Ex Machina was incredible. I mean, incredible. There's so many odd little films along the way. I'm forgetting things right now, but there's sometimes in my life where I'm more of a consumer of stories, and sometimes less so. I'm a bit less so right now because I'm trying to work on my own stuff, but
sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies out there that I absolutely love and that I have great affection for. I loved Mandy. I saw Mandy not too long ago.
Oh, fantastic.
I loved Mandy. Talking about Nicolas Cage, Pig was great too.
Yep. I love getting nerdy with people, and they have some great films. But look, it's been a real thrill for me to be chatting with you. Thanks so much for your time.
For your kind words too. It does mean a lot to me, man.
Well, I'm sincere. I really mean it. And like I said, the second your name popped up, I was excited. So thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Are you going to answer that?
It's not mine.
Hello, Matt.
Sorry, who is this?
There is a bomb under your seat. If you... Do I have your attention?
Did I do something to you?
You sound so guilty.
What do you want?
Drive to this location.
Honey, something's happened. There's a man who has put a bomb in the car. Under our seats, there are pressure triggers. We can't get out. The car will explode. We're here.
Listen very carefully, or I kill you. Open the glove box. Shoot him.
Why are you doing this? What have I ever done to you?
Dad!
His life or yours.
Matt, I'm your best friend.
You're a murderer now, Matt.
You think I'm the bomber?
Well, I guess you've had a tough day. I know that you lost a lot of money for your clients who invested in your fund. A lot of people are worried about you. You got everybody's attention, Matt.
He is still out there. If you can't find him, I will.
I'm in control here.
No, you're not. You hurt my daughter, son of a bitch. I will kill you. What's it gonna be?